My name is Clinton Stanley, and Dover Stamping Company has been in continuous business since 1833, primarily in the metal fabricating products field. We manufacture trash cans, garbage cans, and things of a like nature. Now, the very first process in our manufacture is the cutting of the steel. Most of this steel comes in bundles of 8,000 pounds, and the machine we're watching right at the present time is called a shear. And what this shear does is cut the metal to the actual size for the blanking on the presses, which we will get to later, for the making of the product.
This is a wire forming machine, and it makes all the handles and bales for the items that are being made.
I see. Is this the only job you do, or do you go around in the various jobs?
I operate these machines, just the wire forming machines.
Just the wire forming.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us some of the things that you put handles on that you yourself make?
Yeah, all the pails, all the wash tubs, barrels, all the items that they make.
Right at the moment, we're in the main press department or stamping department of our operation. Now, we first saw the steel as it is cut on the shear, and we saw the wire forming type operation. Now, the metal as it is cut then comes into this department, and it is fabricated either into a semi-finished, a finished product, or parts are made on some of these power presses. Now, what we're about to see is the manufacture of a 20-gallon trash can. And it's a rather unique process in that we have probably one of the only semi-automated lines to manufacture of a trash can within this country.
What stage of the operation are we at now?
Well, you're at the beginning stage of the manufacture of a 20-gallon trash can. You can see the man over here on my right is taking a sheet of steel, placing it in the press itself. Now, in that press is what we call a die. The press comes down and blanks out a certain form from the sheet of metal. And when you can see those blanks later, you'll notice they're indented, and that is the action of the die, not only cutting, but indenting that particular blank. You want to talk?
All right, tell us about this.
All right, now we first saw the blanking operation of a 620 barrel, and this sheet that I'm holding in my hand is what comes out of that press. It's a blanked and formed operation. Now, the very next operation in the manufacture of this can, it goes over here into this roll forming machine. It's placed in there, the rollers bring it out this side, and you end up with a blank that's a half circle. Now, for the next step in the operation, is what we call grooving or notching. And there are two men performing this operation right now. Why don't we go over and look at it?
Thank you.
What we call a grooving or notching operation. Each man picks up a half sheet of steel, places it in the die, and it's a progressive type die, a two-operation die. They actuate the press. This operation seals this metal together as it does there. Now you've got a complete cylinder or the beginning of a barrel. Then we go down to the next operation, which is called top wiring. What it actually does is that it puts a great deal of strength on the top part of the barrel. The man puts a cylinder of a barrel in the machine, and that's what we call a wire cage. Then he places the wire on the upper portion. The die comes down and curls the metal completely around the wire form. Now, these wire forms we saw earlier when we were out there on the wire machine. And from here on, it's a successive automatic process. Well, there's two operations right here. As I stated earlier, it's all automatic from here on. They flow down this chute. Every time the man in top wire actuates his machine, it actuates the rest of his line. And that brings the body into a roll form operation, which merely strengthens and flattens the bottom of the cylinder itself. It is automatically ejected from this machine into the next machine by air cylinder operation. A bottom is automatically double seamed onto the cylinder itself. Now at this point you've almost got a complete barrel, because it ejects from this machine, goes down the line, then we have two men at the end of the line, and what they're doing is welding handles and clips on the barrel itself, and at that point the item is complete.
Is this your regular job?
Well, no, my regular job is welding, but we switch every hour on the hour.
I see. Now tell us what you're doing.
Well, right now, I'm in the process, just putting the label and strapping the barrels so they won't come loose when they're shipping them out.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very simple procedure. Gotta be fast, that's all.
So actually, after your hour is over, you go back to one of these other jobs.
Right.
Yeah. Now this is the last process in the line?
This is the last process. After this, they will put on a truck, and then the floor man will come and get them out, and they will be brought up to the elevator, which they go to the 5th floor.
I see. And from there, they're shipped to wherever they're supposed
Yeah, right.
to go. Okay, thank you. This is a different operation from over there. Tell us what you're doing, will you?
Yeah, well, I'm putting a false wire in here. It's not a wire. It's just folded over, and it's altogether different than that job.
I see.
Yeah.
What are these now?
These are 35 paint pots.
And they're used mostly by the painters, are they?
Yeah.
To,
Right, and this is our assembly line going all the way down.
and is the operation done all within this small complex on these?
Well, no, some of them, they're roll formed in the back.
I see.
Then they're put together by a machine where this seam is right here.
Right.
And then they're sent to us. Then we put the handles and put the bottoms on and everything. That's a double seamer right over here.
I see. It's
Right
somewhat
over
the
here.
same process, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, sort of, but they're kind of smaller.
Smaller.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
On this job, are you on piecework here too?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Most of the jobs are.
Piecework.
Yeah.
Roughly, how much do you make?
Well, it depends. Like this job today, we might be making 35% of our annual pay during the day. Like if we're making two something an hour, well, 35% of two something, that's what you make for the day.
I see. What
Right.
is your pay generally, roughly, at the end of the week?
At the end of the week, what do you mean, like a gross pay
Yes,
or
right. Your gross pay.
115, 120?
I see.
It varies.
Do you have certain fringe benefits?
Oh yeah, you get medical insurance and stuff for your family.
Are you happy on the job?
Well, sometimes I am, sometimes I ain't.
How long have you been here?
Oh, about 5 months now.
That's all?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You going to
Yeah.
stay for a while?
Well, for a while.
Good. Thank you. Tell us what you're doing on this now.
Putting a second year in a bale on a paint pot.
Now, when it comes to you, what does it have? Is a small piece already on it, and all you do is put in the handle?
Yeah, there's one small piece right on here. This here's on.
Right.
And on this side, I put that piece on and a bale.
I see. And you're on piecework on this
Yeah.
too?
Yes.
How many of these can you turn out? Have you ever noticed?
About 200 an hour.
200 in an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
Isn't that some? What do they pay you per hour, roughly?
270, and then after that's piecework. You can make up to, well, about 50% you can make. like 150%. And that's as much as they'll pay you.
Exactly. So what do you make roughly in a week? Are you always on this job?
No, I'm usually on covers.
I see. But you pretty much know the jobs all around the shop, don't
Yeah.
you?
Well, I've been here a long time, 13 years.
13. Well,
Yeah.
you're the longest one we've ever had. Isn't that great? So you follow the processes all along the way.
Yeah.
Very good. And you're happy. You look it anyway.
Gotta work somewhere.
That's right. And you don't mind the job at all. Does the noise interfere with you at all, or have you just gotten accustomed to it?
You get accustomed to it, I guess.
Yeah, you don't
Don't
really,
bother me.
It doesn't bother you. Good. How do you feel about the young people coming in for jobs?
They gotta work too.
But are they do they stay, or is there a lot of moving around?
A lot of them leave. They
Right,
stay for a couple of weeks, even just a couple of days, some of them, they just take off.
right. So they're not as industrious as you are they?
Well,
I don't stick by you. Thank you.
But I was telling you about our longtime employee here, Gordon Manchester, who is a handicapped person. He's been with us for 13 years, and some years ago he was involved in a motorcycle accident and lost a leg. He has an artificial limb right now. And this type of individual we try to place in a job where he can sit and still perform and still function. And he does a good job.
Very good. All right, what process are we at now?
Well, now you're in a hot dip galvanizing process. This is a semi-finished item that we manufacture, and it comes in on the back end of the room. The metal is what we call black. In other words, it's plain steel with no coating on it. We go down to the far end of the room, and you'll see a man down there with a crane and a basket. The items go in that. That is either a sulfuric or muriatic acid bath. And what it does is it cleans the exterior of the metal of all impurities. That next goes into the following tank, which is nothing more than a water tank, which dilutes and rinses off the acid remaining on the product. From there, it goes to a third tank, which contains what we call a chemical flux. Now, this chemical flux does nothing more than cause the zinc to adhere to the metal better. And from that last tank, it goes to the back end of the galvanizing kettle, and you'll see 4 men operating around this kettle. The man at the very far back end is what we call a put-in man. He has a very long, special steel rod. He'll take one of the items and force it down into the molten zinc. Now, in that kettle, as we see it, we have approximately 40,000 pounds of zinc, which is molten at 850 degrees, very, very hot. So the put-in man takes the item, presses it down in. It pops to the surface. The man standing on the far end of the kettle is what we call a skimmer. He will get a hold of that item with his tongs. He will skim the top impurities off. Then 2 men on the end are called takeout men. They take that particular pail that they're working on right now, and you notice he's twirling it around. This causes a much better flow of zinc on a product, an even flow of zinc. What he's doing there is placing it in a water bath, and that primarily assists the spangle or the finish of the operation somewhat. Then it goes down a conveyor line, which we can see later perhaps, and we put what we call a bail handle on it and a label on it, and it's a finished product.
I was just asking you about possibility of accidents on this particular phase of the job.
Well, on this particular phase of the job, there are not really many accidents. Occasionally you will get a spattering of zinc, and while we try to protect the men as much as possible, there is an occasional slight first or second degree burn that could result. But again, as I say, they're few and far between.
This, you said, was the final phase. Would you explain it once more for us?
This is the last operation of the manufacture of a pail. This, again, as I said, happens to be a government pail that we're making. And the man at this machine over here is placing a wire bail handle on the pail. He's also applying a label to it. It then goes down the conveyor line to the very last man, who is actuating a press which clinches that bail handle. the circle on the bill hand. It clinches it together. Then the product is complete and ready for shipment.